Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So the Washington football team came up short on Sunday in week 2 at Arizona 30-15. Lot of reactions from you guys, and it was not positive. And I understand that the most raw form of emotion usually comes directly after something traumatic. Now, this wasn't a traumatic experience, but it wasn't a good one. And so a lot of your emotions were essentially hot takes. You were frustrated. You were upset at the outcome. You felt like it could be different. Arizona, while they were good, they weren't great. They were beatable. That was a winnable football game. And so, yes, that is frustrating. But we've talked about Ron's plan. We've talked about sticking to the script, if you will. We've talked about growing pains. Some of you never agreed to the contract. I put a contract in front of you guys this offseason that specifically said, look, this is a process. All right, this is not happening overnight. We are going to be a 6-10, 7-9 team. We're going to be in ball games. We're going to compete, but we're not going to win as many as you would like. And some of you signed that contract fully understanding that there were going to be games like this, and there are plenty more of these to come. And some of you refused to sign the contract. You ignored the warning signs, and you expect 11-5. And after week 1, you were hell-bent on 11-5, 10-6, and you felt like that was coming. And I think yesterday was a cold dose of reality to a lot of you out there that feel like there's supposed to be some magic button that allows you to skip steps. And there's supposed to be this elixir that you can take that allows you to just jump to the front of the line, and that there isn't a process that has to take place. That Ron just shows up, he demands excellence, and guys just go out and perform at an extremely high level. That's not how this works. And while I was frustrated as well, I understand, and I've said this all season, that there are going to be games like yesterday. There are going to be performances like yesterday that are really disappointing, that you feel like we squandered an opportunity. There are going to be more of these to come. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are going to be some that are way more frustrating. At least Arizona took the fight to us from start to finish, and we never felt like we had a shot in that game. After the turnover by Kyler Murray and the subsequent turnover by Dwayne 2 plays later, and they went down and got that touchdown, and it turned into 14-0. And then Dwayne got sacked and knocked out of field goal range, and it was 14-0. And they ultimately got us to 17-0, and then 20-0 before halftime. We were dead at halftime. I didn't feel like we were coming back. I tweeted this out. Didn't feel like this was a game we were going to come back and win, unlike week 1, where I felt confident that we were going to have a chance to win that football game. I never felt like this was a game that we were going to get. So they put us out of our misery relatively early in that ball game. I appreciate that. There are going to be times where we're going to be in ball games and a big mistake is going to be made or two, and a team that you feel like we should beat, we're not going to beat, and you're going to be extremely frustrated. But some of the things that I saw on socials yesterday, some of the calls for put Kyle Allen in, we should have signed Cam Newton. Some of you guys are insane. Insane. Because you really think that going out and getting Cam Newton would make all of this better. It wouldn't. And I'll take it a step further. What you're doing is you're delaying the inevitable. Either Dwayne is or isn't the guy, but we need to find that out. Some of you have already made up your mind on that, and that's fine. I'm not here to convince you. If you don't have enough patience to allow this process to play itself out, then I'm not going to continue to repeat myself to you because I'm wasting my breath. However, I will say this. Dwayne, for as bad as he was at times yesterday, and he can be frustrating. I've already said that Dwayne's inaccuracy sometimes drives me nuts, because when I look around the league, and this is the problem that I have, and this is something that I have to be better at, I can't compare him to other players around the league that have been doing this for a lot longer. Even the young guys. I talked about Justin Herbert and how, oh my God, Justin Herbert came in and played. Justin Herbert was a 2 or 3 year starter at Oregon, okay? Like, this isn't his first rodeo. He's got more starts in his career, college and NFL combined, than Dwayne Haskins does, okay? That means something. Dwayne started 1 year at Ohio State and then got a handful of starts last year for this team. And so he's still learning. I think he's now up to 23 career starts, I believe, total college and NFL combined, I believe. I'm trying to think. I think there was 13 games he started at Ohio State, maybe 14. They didn't make it to the playoffs that year. So I think it was 13 games, maybe 14. And then I think he started 8 last year, 7 or 8 last year. I think 7 last year. And then another 2 this year now. And I think it's 23 total. It's not enough games, guys, especially at this level. You know, for one, he didn't get enough experience, which is why a lot of people wanted him to go back to college at Ohio State to get more seasoning. But he came out, threw 50 touchdown passes, only 8 interceptions. He came out. I don't blame him. All right, so now he's in the league. He didn't get the kind of tutelage that he needed in his rookie season. Let's be honest with ourselves. The first half of the season was a waste for him. He didn't learn anything, and he didn't really grasp the concept of having to work hard to prepare to be the starter in case your number gets called, because he didn't think his number was ever going to get called. He's maturing. But he got through that process. He got in the game. He got his feet wet. He got some experience. He showed us why we spent the number 15 overall pick on him late in the season. And now we're waiting for that Dwayne to show back up again. And it's going to take some time. This is a brand new offense. He's got a lot of things that he's got to get sorted out. But I can tell you this, that while the inaccuracies at times can be a little unnerving, however, this is a guy that I've seen be accurate before. I know he's capable, okay? And Ron talked about Dwayne's inaccuracy and him not being comfortable in the first half, and he's talked to offensive coordinator Scott Turner about it as well. And a lot of what he said, I said to you guys yesterday, like some of you like, Dwayne looks lost and he's regressed. And no, he hasn't regressed necessarily. He's not lost. And I told you guys that. He's panicking. When you panic, you speed up. When you speed up, you lose your mechanics. When you lose your mechanics, the ball can sail on you. You can be inaccurate. And, you know, it was funny. I was watching the Buccaneers game against the Panthers from week 2. And Brady threw an interception. And the ball sailed on him. And the reason the ball sailed on him, he had pressure. He had pressure, so he panicked. He panicked. He didn't follow through with his mechanics. The mechanics were left out to dry. The ball hung. It got picked off. These things happen when you panic. Dwayne's got to settle in. And they being Scott Turner and company, have to do a better job of making sure Dwayne is comfortable, making sure that he settles in. I think we got a bright spot in this game. There weren't many bright spots on the offensive side of the football, but Terry McLaurin was definitely one of them. He was outstanding. He's taking those steps to prove that he's once and for all a legitimate number 1 wide receiver in this league. I firmly believe that we still need more empirical proof. This past week versus the Arizona Cardinals was another step in that direction. You know, run after the catch, physicality after the catch. Patrick Peterson isn't what he once was as a corner, but no excuses. Terry ate him up, you know, when they were one-on-one. And Terry had one of the other corner, Dre Kirkpatrick, beat down the sideline for a deep ball, and Dwayne overshot him. Still could have caught that football. You know, it wasn't the greatest ball, but it was catchable. But he's showing me that he has the ability to be a legit number 1. So that was a bright spot. I thought the running backs, both of them, in Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, I thought were both sensational in this game. And I think there are more layers that they can peel back and more value that they can extract from these guys. I talked about this yesterday. What happened to these guys being a part of the passing game? And Ron talked about that during his presser. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. But that's the biggest thing that I see for this offense, is the next step being taken is Let's get the running backs more involved. Let's take some of the pressure off of Dwayne. Let's run the football more effectively earlier in the game. I don't feel like we're running the football necessarily effectively in the first half of games. I think we're having a little bit more success in the second half. For whatever reason, we have to be better at running the football early in ball games to take some of this pressure off of Dwayne. I think the quick passing game needs to be a little bit more prevalent early in ball games to take some of the pressure, because the one thing I've seen from Dwayne is the quick passing game has been his best friend to this point. The slants, they're money, okay? The stops, they're money. Anything short underneath, he's hitting with extreme accuracy. He's getting the football out of his hands quickly, and he's getting it to his guys in a place where they can catch it and run and make something happen. It's when he's holding on to the football. It's when he's taking 5-step drops, or when he's trying to push the football 15, 20 yards down the field. That's when we're running into issues with him. And that's going to change over time. But until we get to that point, until we get comfortable enough with this offense that it starts to run smoothly, get the football out of his hands. Get the football into your playmakers' hands. Those wide receiver screens have been money for us to start the season. Why? You get it out of Dwayne's hands quickly into a playmaker's hand and let them do the work. So I think there should be more of that, more of the running backs getting involved in the pass game, more of the running game being a little bit more effective early. These are all things that they need to work towards, but we saw a semblance of some of those things in this game with Terry in the short passing game and the running game, especially when J.D. McKissick came in. There were some really good hits. I thought Antonio Gibson had some really good hits, including his touchdown run. We see that there's promise and progress being made at specific positions, but their help needs to be given to Terry McLaurin. And whether that's Dwayne not seeing other guys or other guys not making plays, there has to be someone else that steps up, whether it's Sims or, again, one of these backs. Somebody else has got to step up and be able to take some of that pressure off of Terry McLaurin. But as you get to the defensive side, you could see that the defense wasn't as aggressive. We didn't blitz as much. The corners were not aggressive at all, as I mentioned. And if it were me, I would have been more aggressive. I would have been more disrespectful to Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins, because they don't possess the speed that the receivers last week possessed. So I would have been really disrespectful. I would have been all up in their face, deleting the airspace. Now, I wouldn't have laid hands on them because none of our corners are physical enough to deal with Larry Fitzgerald nor DeAndre Hopkins in a hand fight. So no need in even getting into that physical altercation with those guys. But I'm deleting the airspace. There won't be 5 or 7 or 10 yards of separation on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 1. There won't be 4 yards of separation, 5 yards of separation on 3rd and 1. That's not happening, because I don't think they can run by me. I trust my speed more than I assume that they have it. So I thought that we were just tentative, and they talked about that. Ron specifically talked about that with Jack Del Rio, he said, and we'll get to that when we get to in other news a little bit later on in the program. But these are all takeaways and things that I saw from afar. Watching this game, defense wasn't as aggressive. We didn't get to Kyler Murray nearly as much. I thought that the linebackers, I thought they had a better game this week. Just first blush, and I may go back and find out that, no, the backers weren't that good. I thought off first blush, I thought the backers were more aggressive and more involved this game than they were last game. I thought they were a little bit more aggressive. Obviously, not as many blitzes, but John Bostic got another sack. I want to say that Kevin Pierre-Louis got a sack of Murray as well. It might have been a forced to throw away and not a sack. But the linebackers I thought played well, especially KPL. I thought Kevin Pierre-Louis was outstanding in this game. So that was another bright spot. But, when I look at this football team, I see a young football team trying to figure things out. And they're trying to figure them out on the fly. And when you're looking to figure out things on the fly, when you're getting on-the-job training, you're going to have some mishaps. Mistakes are going to be made, and you're going to take some steps backwards. There are going to be games where we take a massive step forward, and you're going to feel really good. And then then the very next week, we're going to take 2 steps back, and you're going to be just as frustrated as you were excited the week previous. And I saw that from you guys, and I was not happy with the reactions to the game from you guys. I'm just going to let you know right now, but it doesn't matter if I like the way you react because everybody reacts in their own way to a loss, but for as excited as a lot of you were after week 1, man, I got people saying fire everybody. What? After one game, fire everybody? I mean, it's crazy some of the things that some of you were saying. You're ready to give up on Dwayne. You're ready to get rid of Ron. Some of you want to get rid of Ron. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you want Scott Turner out of here? Put Kyle Allen in. Put Kyle Allen in? What? So the one thing we haven't really been doing to this point, and yeah, we had 2 turnovers, but Dwayne hasn't thrown a pick yet this season. Okay? We're not really turning the ball over. The fumble we fumbled twice at the quarterback position in 2 weeks. That's alarming. But we're not really turning the ball over at the quarterback position. That's the one thing Dwayne doesn't really do is throw interceptions. He takes care of the football. You say what you want, but he's not turning it over. If you really want to have a chance this season to win ball games or at least be in them, you can't turn it over. You see the defense, what they look like when they're overworked. They were overworked yesterday. Some of it through their own doing. They had chances to get off the field. They had opportunities to get off the field on 3rd down, and the Cardinals were carving us up in the first half on 3rd downs. Granted, a lot of those 3rd downs were 3rd and shorts, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. It doesn't matter. The good defenses, the elite defenses, they get off the field. Once it's a 3 at the beginning of that sentence, 3rd, not 2nd, not 1st, as long as it's 3rd, it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. They could care less. If it's an elite defense, they're getting off the field. Well, we didn't do that because we're not an elite defense. We've got a ways to go. But we see the makings of what could become an elite defense. We see some pieces. We see parts. There are things here that I like from this defense. But we got a long way to go, just like the offense does. The offense has a much further distance to travel than the defense does. But nonetheless, both of them have a long ways to go. Special teams has a long ways to go. Steven Sims had a fumble on special teams. But and this is what, I heard this too. Get Steven Sims off of punt returns. Get Steven Sims off of kickoff returns. He can't even get us back to the 20. I was frustrated by that, but guess what? Certain guys have a license in this league to do whatever the hell they want to do on returns. You know how you get that license? By being dynamic. Cordero Patterson for the Bears, he could come out from 7 yards deep. That ball could be basically out of bounds, and if he decides he wants to come out, guess what? He's got the license to do it because he's one of the best return men in all of football. All right? Cincinnati Bengals, their return man, he led the league in kick return yards last year. Guess what? If he feels like coming out 4 yards deep, he can. You know why? He's earned the right to do that. Steven Sims, another guy on that list. All right, don't forget what Steven did last year. Kick return for a touchdown. Almost had another kick return for a touchdown. Had another one called back because of a penalty. Don't forget what Steven Sims did on kick returns last year. Don't act like this man can't bust one off at any time. Okay? So for those of you frustrated, look, again, growing pains. It's coming. Whether you like it or not, it's coming. Okay? So they're going to be good weeks. They're going to be bad weeks. This next week could be a good week. It's an opponent that we can handle. But it could also go sideways very quickly. Ron talked about Troy Apke and the mistakes he made. He said he's a young football player, hasn't played a lot of football. He's right. I haven't given up on Troy Apke. A lot of you have. A lot of you want to move on. You guys always want the quick fix. Sometimes you have to be willing to put in the work and take the lumps in the short term for the long-term benefit. A lot of you have no patience at all. I'd imagine that most of you have no kids at home. None. Most of you are probably either teenagers or early 20s. You don't have kids and you get to be selfish. So you don't have to have patience. You do whatever the hell you want to do when you feel like doing it. But when you have kids, you have to learn patience because it's not about you anymore. Someone else you're responsible for. And you're not always going to get to do the things you want to do. And you're not always going to get to do things you want to do when you want to do them. You have to exhibit patience. And a lot of you simply do not have that right now. You just don't. You want instant gratification. You want this team to win now. It does not work that way. Okay? And so we may have a great showing against Cleveland in week 3. And then the following week against the Rams at home or the Ravens or whoever the hell is week 4, we may wet the bed again. And we may look just as bad as we did this week, maybe even worse. You know, the Ravens could come to town and they could put a 40 spot on us. And we could lose that game 41-10. And all of you would come in right after the game and not show up for overtime and you're bitching and complaining. You've got to understand that we're going to have some good games this season. We're going to have some damn bad ones, okay? But at the end of the day, it's all a part of the process. All of these things are learning experiences, whether good or bad. Troy Apke is learning. When he gets beat, when he stops his feet, he learns from that experience. That wasn't the same mistake he made in week 1 when he got beat. I told you that. I said in week 1, he took a poor angle and got beat. This week, he stopped his feet. He was sitting on an underneath route and he got beat deep. He's learning. These things happen. You learn from them. The best compliment you can get from someone is he doesn't repeat the same mistake twice. But you're going to make mistakes. The thing is, what do you do when you make those mistakes? Do you learn from them or do you repeat them? I haven't seen Troy Apke continue to make the same mistakes over and over again, but he's making mistakes that young safeties make. You underestimate a guy's speed. You take a poor angle. You think you know what's coming. You watch film. When they run this route combination, usually this guy breaks it off at 12 on a dig route. Well, this time he kept going. I told you last week, the Cardinals didn't push the football down the field. Kyler Murray had his first 20-yard completion of the season, a ball travel over 20 yards in the air against us. They didn't throw the ball deep down the field against San Francisco. So I don't blame Troy Apke for being up close towards the line of scrimmage and thinking that something was going to be short, because that's all Arizona showed on film. They gave us something different. He wasn't ready for it. He got beat deep. It happens. You learn from it. Again, a lot of you do not have patience. And really, you probably don't have the stomach for what's going to take place this year. But if you've been a fan of this team, you've been through a lot worse than what you're going to get this year. So all I can pretty much tell you, and the best I can say to you is, relax. Have patience. It's a process, and it's Ron's plan. Ron's plan. So let's get to in other news. And before we get to Ron Rivera's Monday presser, Brandon Sheriff update on his injury came out. And Ron wouldn't get specific with us, but he said it was good news. Ian Rappaport first reported this news that Brandon Sheriff has a sprained MCL. He'll be out 3 to 5 weeks, which is a sigh of relief for us. Could be a lot worse, especially with all the injuries taking place around the league and a lot of guys being done for the season. Consider us very lucky to be getting Brandon Sheriff back. Now, the real question is, when is he going to be back? How healthy will he be? And will this be a big enough sample size for this administration to be able to come to some kind of determination on whether Brandon Sheriff deserves to be here? And do you extend him? Or do you say, can't continue to pay a guy that can't stay healthy, will allow him to get his money elsewhere? Do they want to invest in Brandon Sheriff or not? And this was a freak incident. I mean, he didn't do anything wrong. Literally, he's blocking his man and his own lineman falls on his leg. I mean, what can you do? That's part of being a lineman, is that you just don't know. So Sheriff, 3 to 5 weeks right now is the prognosis with the sprained MCL. That's great news. Probably the best news we could have gotten out of that situation that did not look very good when it initially happened. But Ron Rivera stepped to the podium, and, you know, I'm really disappointed in the Washington football team's audio on YouTube. It's ridiculous. I get it. Everyone's going through COVID-19 and it's a pandemic and you're trying to adjust these Zoom conference calls and all of that stuff. But and I get it. You're on the road for the first time. It's a little bit different. But that was ridiculous. Yesterday after the game, I heard absolutely nothing that Ron, Dwayne, or anybody said during the post-game presser. It was a waste of time. Really, it was. So today's presser was really what I had to focus in on because I couldn't really hear anything. I couldn't gather any information from yesterday's presser. So today Ron stepped to the podium. A day after is usually a lot more, you're a lot more open to discussing what happened, and you've got clearer eyes because you've had a chance to watch the film. You've had a chance to kind of assess some of the things that went wrong, and you feel a lot more confident. It's hard to speak on something when you don't actually have all the facts. You don't actually know. No one likes to really guess at things. So, Monday pressers are usually a lot more beneficial and informative than the one right after the game. And so Ron was very forthcoming, as he's been throughout his tenure here in Washington, was very forthright and direct as he's been, talked about Dwayne and said, hey, we got to do a better job of, getting Dwayne off to faster starts. He said, I talked to Scott Turner about, how we can try to do that. It was a great question by Rhiannon Walker, and when she said, look, how do we get the second half Dwayne to show up in the first half? It's essentially what she said, excuse me. And to Ron's response was to laugh initially because it's so true. I think every fan is saying the same thing. Like, how can we get the guy that threw the corner route to Steven Sims to show up in the first half and throw a touchdown pass to Logan Thomas over the middle of the football field? How do we get the Dwayne that's locked in, that's hitting these slants and going up tempo to show up in the first half instead of waiting until the score is 20-0 or in week 1, 17-0 to start to show up and be effective? So that's the trick. They haven't figured that out yet. Obviously, it's 2 weeks into the season. Everyone's trying to figure things out. And so it's a process, and eventually they'll get into some kind of rhythm. They'll figure some things out. And I told you guys, one of the things that you're going to see early in the season that's going to be frustrating is this offense being slow to adapt to one another because everything is new, and without an offseason to really try to get to iron out all of the wrinkles, you got a brand new play caller, you got a first-time quarterback essentially in a brand new system, and you got a bunch of moving parts, as we talked about, So don't forget, Dontrell Inman literally just got here a month ago. Like, this is a very young offense everywhere. You got a rookie in the backfield. J.D. McKissick, for as long as he's been in the league, and we're talking about 4, maybe 5 years max, you're talking about a guy that hasn't played a bunch of football, okay, especially in a starring role. He's always been a supporting cast member, and he is that here, but his role is expanded, okay? In Seattle, in Detroit, he only had a few lines in the movie. All right, here, he's one of the main supporting cast characters. Like, we need J.D. McKissick to step up. You're asking a lot of a guy that hasn't been in that role really ever in his career. So there are a lot of moving parts with this offense and a lot of things that need to be adjusted, tweaked, and they still haven't figured all of those things out. And, Ron talked about Dwayne's inaccuracy, and he said, look, Dwayne is getting excited. He sees it. He said, the thing we love is that he's making the right decisions. And I told you yesterday, I said, man, Dwayne's making smart decisions with the ball. It's just inaccurate throws, and some of them drive me nuts. Some of them you can blame on the offensive line. He just doesn't have enough time. And when you get sped up, when mentally you're telling yourself, I don't have a lot of time, you start to rush. And I think there's an element of that. Ron seems to think that it's him seeing it and getting so excited and anxious to get it there that everything falls by the wayside, including his mechanics. I told you he did the same thing on the Logan Thomas touchdown in week 1 against Philadelphia. Logan Thomas was so wide open. He was so anxious to get it to him. He threw his mechanics out the window. That was not great mechanics. But he was able to just use all arm and whip it to him on a line, and it was a touchdown. But it's different when you got to put touch on the football. You can't get away with just putting it on a frozen rope and getting it there. You got to actually put a little bit of touch on it. And so you need to be able to step into your throw when you want to put a little bit of touch on it. And that's something that Dwayne has to kind of get, a hold of. He's got to get mastery of when to put touch, when to put hot sauce to go on it, and, how to be able to manipulate those situations. And he's not there yet. But Make no mistake about it. Accuracy isn't something you can teach. Either you're accurate or you're not accurate. I've seen Dwayne Haskins. I liken him to Josh Allen in Buffalo. Josh Allen is plenty accurate with the football. He didn't just show up in the league and just started playing tremendous football. Took him this year. Josh Allen is in his third year. You could argue last year he did some good things, but he still was up and down with his play. All right. Took him to his third season now that he's in. To have the light bulb come on, Josh Allen is, and they finally got him some weapons too. It's amazing how all these things kind of come together all at once. Josh Allen got the experience that he needed because his organization had confidence and patience with him. He got the experience that he needed. He won some ball games. He led his team to the postseason, almost led them to a win, did some foolish things in that game as well. But they got him some more weaponry this offseason, and now he's taking off. Man's thrown for over 700 yards, close to 800 yards in just 2 games. Okay? He's tearing it up this year, is Josh Allen. But that didn't happen overnight. And people question his accuracy coming out of Wyoming. Oh, you can't fix accuracy. Well, the guy was accurate in his junior year. He wasn't as accurate because he didn't have enough weapons around him in his senior season. He tried to do too much. So I'm saying all of that to say this. Dwayne can be accurate. I've seen him do it. You've seen him do it. You know he can be accurate. The game has to slow down for Dwayne. I think it sped back up because of all the uncertainty, whether it's the offensive line or the playbook or the players around him. Things have sped back up for him. We need the game to slow down for Dwayne. And once he gets to that point, we're going to have something with this kid because he's talented. And you see it, I see it. We know he's got it. So Ron talked about that and how they just need him to slow down. He's speeding up everything. He's frantic back there. I told you, he's panicking. He's frantic back there. Ron wouldn't describe it as panicking. I am. I think it's more to do with the offensive line than it is him excited about a guy being open or a matchup that he likes. I don't think it's that at all. I think he's thinking in his head, I don't know if these 5 guys in front of me are going to hold up. I need to get rid of this football a lot faster than I would like to. So let me speed up this process and try to get rid of the ball so someone doesn't hit me from behind and I fumble again. So whatever the case may be, he's got to trust that the guys are going to do their job so that he can do his. And if they don't, it's not your fault. But you've got to make sure that when opportunities present themselves, you hit them. And Ron kind of alluded to that. He also talked about the defense not being as aggressive in week 2 as they were in week 1. Some of that falls on the shoulders of your defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio. They did not blitz as often as they did in week 1. But some of that was the players being timid. I talked about the corners playing off in some situations where they could have potentially gotten off the field. I didn't talk about this, but the defensive line, I didn't think they were as aggressive up front. I think they were a little bit neutralized by Kyler Murray. I think they were so worried about Murray and got to stay in my rush lane and keep rush lane integrity that they weren't as aggressive getting up the field. And all of that stunted and neutralized their rushes. And really, Murray was not under duress very often in this game. I did see some twists and some stunts and things of that nature. And the interception that he threw was a beautiful stunt inside by the defensive end, Sweat, who occupied the tackle and guard. And that allowed Daron Payne to loop around and get pressure on Murray. And he threw a Eli Manning no-look pass and it got picked off by Landon Collins. I would have loved to have seen more of that, but really it just wasn't in the cards in this particular game. And as I mentioned, not a lot of aggression on the part of our defenders because I think they were so mesmerized by Kyler Murray and just didn't want him to beat them with his legs, and he did it anyway. So my thing is, if you live by the blitz, you die by the blitz. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. If I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm going to go down the way that I go down, especially on the defensive side of the football. On the offensive side, you'd like to be able to adapt and adjust to what you're seeing from the defense you're playing against. If they can't stop the run, you run the ball that week. If they can't stop the pass, you throw it that week. On offense, you'd like to be a little bit more adaptable. On defense, I want to live and die by what I do best. If you are great at defeating the blitz, then I might be in trouble this week. But if I'm a blitzing team and I'm aggressive, I can't turn that off. I'm just going to be who I am. And if you beat me doing what I do, you got me. I thought we took a step back because of Kyler Murray. And instead of taking the fight to Murray, which is what I wanted to do, we were kind of sitting on our hands. We were passive aggressive, and he took the fight to us, and we didn't have any answers. So he said he talked to Jack Del Rio about that. And, hopefully this was practice for Lamar Jackson. We'll see him here in a little bit. And hopefully this experience will – there's no way to prepare for the speed that Lamar Jackson brings to the table. But this was an experience comparable to what they'll see against Baltimore down the road. So we'll see if they make some adjustments and if they're better in that situation because of this game. But, it was disappointing. And, Ron also – and I thought this was really big. Ron talked about – and John Comm, I believe, asked this question about, how do you – kind of balance the want to win now versus the understanding of having to be patient with a young team, understanding that there are growing pains. And Ron said, yeah, you want to win every game you go out. The goal is to win. No one's out here looking to lose and learn lessons, but eventually through these losses, you do learn lessons. And, it's a process, and Ron just continues to harp on the fact that this is a process, You're figuring things out. Apke hasn't played. Dwayne really hasn't played. You're finding out, and we've talked about this, you're finding out who amongst this group of players are keepers. Who are these guys that are going to be cogs in this machine moving forward? What are the pieces you can get rid of and replace? And what are the pieces you can't go without? You're trying to figure those things out. And so there's a lot that goes into that. And this, to me, honestly, this is one of many ball games that you're going to be frustrated after this season. All right. Come to grips with that right now. All right. There are going to be many more of these to come. How you process that and internalize it is up to you. I'm just telling you in advance, more of these are coming, okay? There will be more losses. There will be more beatdowns. Like I said, the thing that I was most positive about leaving this game, outside of individual performances, was the fact that this could have gotten ugly. We were down 20-0 at halftime. This easily could have been a 37-10 ass thrashing. It was 30-15, and in my very optimistic mind, I'm sitting here thinking at 27-9, when we're going for two, hey, you get this 2-point conversion, we get a stop or a turnover, we get another score, another 2-point conversion. I'm not saying, I'm dumb like that, So in my mind, and it was a fleeting thought because they shut down the 2-point conversion with ease. And that killed all of that. And that's another thing. We got to work on our 2-point conversion offense because, it doesn't look good. We had 2-point conversions in this game, and neither one of them came close to being, remotely close to being successful. But that being said, in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, I just watched the Cowboys come back. I watched the Broncos fight with a backup quarterback, Jeff Driscoll. I watched the Giants with half of their roster down, including their best player, fight tooth and nail at Chicago and came within 6 yards of getting in the end zone. Like, there's a chance. Get this 2-point conversion, and it's a 2-score game. You're down 16. It was a fleeting thought. But I got there. At 27-16, in my mind, even though I knew you're in no man's land at 27-16 or 15, excuse me, you're in no man's land because you're down 12. Even if you get a field goal, you're still down 9. You're still down 2 scores. In my mind, I'm still thinking, hey, man, for as bad as we looked in the first half, we're just 2 scores down. And so there's some solace that I took in that. I'm not telling you to be excited to lose by 15. That's not what I'm saying. But I just like the fact that this team fought. And Ron said that he didn't want anybody to get hurt. That was his excuse. I still don't like that. He didn't try to fight at the end of this game. But He said he didn't want – Brandon had went down. He just wanted to get the hell out of Arizona with the rest of his guys intact and move on. He didn't see any purpose of this team trying to prolong the game knowing that you weren't going to have a chance to win more likely than not. I don't like that. I don't care too much for the answer, and I don't not necessarily care too much for that attitude, but it's his team. He does what he wants to do. We weren't going to win the game, but again, a wise man once told me you can never make a shot you don't take. And so that's the way I approach that. But in any event, that's going to do it for this show. Washington Football Nightly here on Monday, week 3 edition. A lot to get to this week, man. The film should be really interesting on Patreon. So if you're not a patron, you need to become one. We'll take a look at the film, see what the team did right, what they did wrong. We'll start with the offensive film. That's the easiest to break down without the all-22s, or excuse me, the defensive film. That's the easiest to break down without the all-22s. And then we'll get to the offensive film on Wednesday. So I look forward to taking a look at it and seeing some things a little bit clearer as I did after watching the film on after week 1's game. So should be probably an enlightening experience, but nonetheless, it shouldn't be any less frustrating to see some of these opportunities that were probably squandered by the football team. In any event, I'm your man, Louie T. I'm gonna glide to the side, allow you guys to enjoy Monday Night Football. Hopefully you'll join me for that at the game's conclusion. If not, we'll reconvene on Tuesday night. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage it could be. Until next time, I'm your man, Louie T. This has been Washington Football Nightly. I'll see you guys next time.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30.